California. And is supported by Kronos, offering cloud-based workforce management solutions to help organizations of all types and sizes achieve their strategic goals. More at Kronos.com. Kronos, workforce innovation that works.
From 8 p.m. in New York, good morning. I'm Mark Garrison in for David Brancaccio with a look at business and economics as Wall Street starts its day. Before we do the numbers, let's talk live with Chris Lowe, Chief Economist at FTN Financial, to get some context. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Mark.
So we both made it to work today here in snowy New York, but the weather in the Northeast and down south it's going to have a real impact on the economy. What are you expecting to see?
Well, that's right. You know, there's no question retailers have felt it, particularly auto dealers. Nobody likes to buy a car when the weather's like this. What typically happens is as soon as it thaws, when it warms up, the economy comes back. The question is, does that happen before or after the end of the first quarter? It'll have a big, that makes a big difference to growth.
Investors watching weather too. Now, this happens to be the time that the Labor Department gathers the data for the employment survey, and many part-time workers, construction workers, lots of people that are not on the job this week because of the weather. So when the job numbers come out next month, what does the Fed do with them?
Well, that's right. It's going to be 3 months in a row where the numbers are really weak. At least 2 of those months were weather affected. The Fed ignores them. But the problem is, how do you make a decision when you can't really see what's going on? And there has to be at least some nervousness at the Fed that the economy could be doing something, maybe even accelerating underneath all this noise.
Okay, we'll watch it and see what happens. And we did see at least some companies that are benefiting. We saw the Campbell's profit report. People are definitely buying a lot of soup in the winter weather. So there's some companies that are doing okay in the winter weather. Chris Lowe at FTN Financial, thanks very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, let's do the numbers. Stocks are down a bit on Wall Street. The S&P is almost down 0.1% at 1828. The Dow is down just a bit at 16,020. The Nasdaq is down about 0.25% at 4230. Europe stocks have been up mostly on strong economics data. News this morning that menswear retailer Joseph A. Bank will acquire Eddie Bauer. It's not a huge deal dollar-wise at $825 million. That is tip compared to the $45 billion Comcast Time Warner cable deal. But this one is an unusual deal. So we brought in Harvard Law and Business Professor Guhan Subramanian to help explain. Good morning, Guhan.
Good morning.
So I'll try and summarize this because it gets a little complicated. But basically, last year, Joseph A. Bank tried to buy Men's Warehouse. Then Men's Warehouse said, no, we will buy you. Now Joseph A. Bank is buying Eddie Bauer in large part to make it harder for Men's Warehouse to buy Joseph A. Bank. I know it's complicated, but just talk about the strategy behind this latest move by Joseph A. Bank to buy Eddie Bauer.
Well, it's a move that target companies use on occasion. It's called bulking up, where the target company, in this case, Joseph A. Bank, tries to make itself bigger. And by doing so, they make it harder for Men's Warehouse to acquire either Joseph A. Bank by itself or along with Eddie Bauer as well.
And so talk about other times when this has come up and how that's turned out as far as other big deals where one of the companies has made this move.
Yeah, it doesn't happen that often, but it happens on occasion. So, for example, a few years ago, Oracle was making a hostile bid for PeopleSoft, and PeopleSoft decided to buy J.D. Edwards as a way of bulking up, and many commentators at the time thought that Oracle might go away because PeopleSoft was making itself so much bigger, but in fact, Oracle and Larry Ellison said, no, we're going to buy the whole thing, and that's what they ended up doing in the end.
So as we said, as takeovers go, this is not a large deal, but it's quite interesting just in the sense that we haven't seen these kind of stories pop up very often, really since the 80s when there was so much merger and acquisition activity. Why is this such an interesting story?
Well, you're right to say that the size of the deal isn't enormous, but the chess game is really quite interesting, and things like the initial Joseph A. Bank bid for Men's Warehouse, and the back and forth is called Pac-Man defense, and the terms are kind of fun, but they're not seen that often. So I think you're right that the strategy here is quite interesting, and it's certainly a case I'll be teaching my corporate law students this spring.
Okay, well, a lot of interesting stuff for you and your students to chew over. Guhan Subramanian, thank you so much.
Sure thing.
Marketplace Morning Report is supported by Invest Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland, a European location with a young, well-educated, agile workforce at the ready. More at investni.com/invest. by Vanderbilt University Medical Center. The promise of discovery using a patient's DNA to tailor transplant care at vanderbilthealth.com. And by Citrix with GoToMeeting, connecting people in face-to-face online meetings so they can collaborate from anywhere. More at GoToMeeting.com.
The White House is providing up to $100 million in disaster assistance for California ranchers who are struggling with widespread drought there, along with several other aid moves. President Obama is in Fresno, California today to roll out the aid package. Marketplace's David Weinberg takes a look at what exactly the president can do in a situation like this.
If the federal government really wanted to solve the drought problem, it would just make it rain.
The federal government can't make it rain, but they can make it rain money, and that is helpful.
Dr. Jeffrey Mount is a senior fellow at the Public Policy Institute of California. He says federal money could be given to farm laborers who are out of work because of the drought and to farmers to help cover crop loss. But that doesn't solve the problem of the lack of water.
Not to disappoint, but it's mostly small ball stuff that the federal government can do. Frankly, there's just not enough water to go around no matter what.
What the federal government can do to increase the water supply is invest in technology that captures wastewater and stormwater.
We don't capture it, we don't use it, and there's a huge opportunity, billions of gallons in every rainstorm.
Steve Fleishley is Water Program Director at the National Resources Defense Council. He says one more thing the feds could do is tell states that if they want to receive drought relief funds from FEMA, they'll have to create policies that encourage more efficient water use. I'm David Weinberg, Marketplace.
And finally, if you're not a fan of Valentine's Day, you can always watch relationships based on power, hunger, and lies. The latest season of the Netflix series House of Cards is finally out. The political drama has some high-profile fans. President Obama's official Twitter account begs, no spoilers, please. In New York, I'm Mark Garrison. This is the Marketplace Morning Report. This is 8 p.m. American Public.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Cleveland Clinic, where more than 1 million same-day appointments have been scheduled. More at clevelandclinic.org. From Angie's List, providing reviews of local roofers, painters, landscapers, and plumbers to keep the consumer informed. More at angieslist.com. From Blinds.com, with the Window Shopper mobile app that lets customers use augmented reality to shop for window coverings. Available at Blinds.com. And from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
Good morning. You're listening to Morning Edition on KJZZ. I'm Dennis Lambert. We'll get up to 85 today. It's 56 degrees right now.
Why do we fall in love? Why does love feel so good and hurt so much? I'm Dean Alsher. Join me for What Is This Thing Called Love? It's part of a new series called The Really Big Question.
This special program for Valentine's Day is tonight at 7 on KJZZ.
KJZZ is supported by Victory at Verado, serving up a new way to live for people over 55. New home styles and miles of scenic trails. The whole story is at Verado.com. Victory will be yours in 2015.
KJZZ's Group 915 presents What I Wish I Knew About Getting Out of Debt, a panel discussion on financial literacy and education, Thursday, February 20th at Rio Salado College. For more information, visit www.kjzz.org.
This is listener-supported KJZZ FM Phoenix and HD. It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. President Obama is about to announce emergency drought relief measures here in California. Scott Horsley reports in this hour of Morning Edition from NPR News.
In Phoenix News at 8:06, a bill moving through the state legislature would help county attorneys prosecute those who assist in a suicide.
The help for California includes up to $100 million in disaster assistance for farmers with livestock. I'm Renee Montaigne.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. A great Russian skater suffered disaster at the Olympics. Our colleague Sonari Clinton is watching the skaters who remain. Also this hour, a Virginia judge strikes down the state's gay marriage ban. We'll hear from the state attorney general, Mark Herring. And the Mississippi River is making a sound you have to hear to believe. It's Friday, February 14th, Valentine's Day, and the birthday of former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg, who is 72. Here's the news.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The National Weather Service has put the Northeast under winter storm warning as heavy wet snow falls on the region. This is from the same winter storm that pummeled the Mid-Atlantic yesterday and the South earlier this week. Skies are finally clearing. That's good news for air travelers. But as NPR's Mark Memmott reports, it'll be a few days before airlines can get everyone to their destinations.
The numbers tell the story of the havoc the storm caused. 14,000 flights were canceled this week.